Hello everyone and welcome to the FPL Cougars show. I'm Chris.
I'm
and
Kieran.
Today it's our first show of the season. We're going to be looking at some of the prices that got revealed over the weekend, as well as talking about the game launching. We're also going to dive into our first drafts and pick out some players who we think could be good value this season. But before we sort of jump into all that fun stuff, we're going to just do a little bit of a recap about ourselves, because it's the start of the season. If you're new to the channel, you might not know how long we've been playing, how we've done previously, and then we're also just going to have a brief recap on the 19/2020 season before we get into that. So I suppose, do you want to start, Keith, by just saying how long you've been playing and what you've been doing?
Okay, so yeah, I've been playing since 2010-2011 season, which I guess is about, how many years is that now? Like 10 years or so? Yeah, quite a while. So I didn't really play it seriously for a long time. I think you roped me into starting to play it, and I never really took it seriously. I think I only took it seriously from 2017-18 season, so a few ago. And yeah, e.g. not sort of giving up halfway through the season when it wasn't going right. So yeah, my last season's overall rank was 29k, which was I think supposed to be something like the top 0.5% of all players, or the 7 million odd. And previous ranks, my best ranks when I did start taking it seriously, was 165k in 17-18, 18-19 I got 15k, so big improvement there. And then 19-20 with that COVID affected season, which obviously is still sort of affecting football, the 29k. So obviously the target for this year is the 10k, if not higher. But yeah, I want to hit that sort of 10k mark this year for sure.
Yeah, no, definitely. So I think quite similarly, like you're saying, I roped you into playing, but I've been playing, I maybe played a season before I roped you into playing. So I think this will be my 11th season now. And last season was my worst one, as people, I mean, it's just the pain of it is still strong 3 or 4 weeks later. So it was like 485k, which is by far my worst. So in the last 2 seasons before that, I'd had a 24k and an 81. My previous best two, I miraculously somehow once upon a time finished in the side of the top 500, placing 441st. Which now I think that the game's got more players, you kind of think, wow, that would be difficult. And I've been lucky enough to finish inside the top 2,500 as well. So my target this season is just to have a bit of a better year than last. I feel like it went off the boil majorly last season. And yeah, just want to get it back on track, really. All right, so to wrap up a little bit of last season, just to mention our mini league winner. So that was Nathan Wollaston, who used to comment on our videos and be in the live chats. I'm sure if ever you tuned into a live stream, you would have seen him there. He won like a number of leagues because he finished 27th overall. Fantasy Football Scout did an interview with him after it, and I picked out this quote because I thought it was quite interesting, and I kind of feel like whenever I've had a good season, it's because I've had a really good start and been up there by about game week 10, 15. He said in his interview, he said, I got into the top 1k by game week 17, and it was quite enjoyable. He had chips and he was going to keep playing for fun, and then he kept seeing the gaps. The top 10k mark was getting bigger as he sort of pushed on, and he knew he could relax. So it kind of made me think, and maybe you do this same, but having a good start in FPL is so important. I think that was perhaps one of my reasons for my downfall last season. All right.
I mean, a lot of people last season were in the millions, weren't they? So
definitely, yeah.
Sorry, carry on.
I was just going to say, to wrap up finally on the Cub picks last season, because we didn't do a show to recap. I slightly edged out Kieran, thanks to Antonio and Jesus scoring. So I know roughly that, I say roughly, I know that I finished on about 162. So it'll be interesting to see if over the course of the season we can sort of beat our own previous best scores, because it was quite fun choosing our one-off player every week. All right, well, let's get on.
I think I just need to pick better players for it, even though they have low sort of ownership. I just think I need to pick better ones of those, because I would just go for like proper differentials of like 1% that just could have a good game and a really good fixture, but they just never actually did.
I know. I'm gonna play a lot more smarter with the Cougar Cub picks. I want to try and get some more big scores. All right, onto the preview then. We'll bring up our first drafts, like we said we're going to reveal, but we're also going to be chit-chatting through some of our sort of picks, really, from the prices. Now, funnily enough, I didn't want to look at... I mean, we've been quite particular about this on Twitter. We've not really picked a team properly yet because we don't have the fixtures, and that is sort of the main thing you go into game week 1 deciding. But we've both picked teams based mainly on prices, and I didn't want to look at Kieran's team because we're always accused of having similar teams. But I sort of saw it as I loaded it into the show about 10 minutes before we started broadcasting. I was like, oh, we've got 11 players the same. So anyway, it's going to change a lot between now and the deadline, but it's just funny how that's happened.
We're just picking the best players. I mean, you can't really blame us for having similar teams when it's the best players.
I know.
Right.
All right. Well, do you want to kick us off, because we're going to work through from goalkeepers up to the forward line. So, I mean, you've started there with Matt Ryan in goal. You've got Button on the bench. That Brighton double up's been. I think you had that at the start of last season as well.
I did, yeah. Matt Ryan at 4.5, Button at 4.0. The possibly the cheapest, or well, they should be the cheapest nailed goalkeeper combination in the game. I'm not sure what Gunn is at Southampton. I guess he's 4.5.
Yeah, he's 4.5.
Okay, so yeah, it is the cheapest. So you don't need a backup of a rotational 4.5 either, because you've got Button in case Ryan get injured, and that 0.5 can be super valuable for your team if you need it elsewhere. Even if you want to put 99.5 in the bank or on your field and then have 0.5 in the bank for someone who catches fire and you can move on to them straight away, that 0.5 can be very valuable. So only him and McCarthy are the ones, or the sort of starting keepers that have kept their 4.5 million price value from last year, apart from obviously the ones that are coming up for the promoted team. So he was the 8th highest scoring keeper. This is Matt Ryan, obviously, from last season at 1920 with 135 points, more than Edison, Allison, Lloris, Leno. So those are some big name keepers that he's scoring more out in FPL. So across the last 3 seasons of FPL, he's had 10, 6 and 9 clean sheets. So he got 9 this year, which is pretty good. So you probably want, when you're picking a keeper, or your budget keeper at least, to get around the 9-10 clean sheets is good. So across the last 3 seasons as well, he's had 124 saves, 97, and then 117 saves this year. And Pope, who obviously everyone lauded last year as such a great keeper and obviously top scoring keeper in FPL, he only got 3 more saves than Ryan last year, which is interesting, I suppose. And then bonus-wise, he's had 13, 11 and 14 points across the last 3 seasons. So he does okay in bonus point scenario. And then goals conceded for Brighton is 54, 55 and 54. So consistent at being fairly bad at keeping clean sheets. But, that's not too bad, I suppose.
Don't you think that's interesting how that didn't change much, considering they had Potter instead of Houghton? Like, because they changed, didn't they, for the most recent season and brought him in, but the fact that defence hasn't changed at all.
They wanted to be I guess they wanted to be a bit more attacking, didn't they? Less. I suppose you would say that they're fairly solid. They do have good defenders, but I don't know. I think their focus sort of tried to go on a bit more passing and attacking wise, rather than being solid in defence last year. So I imagine they've signed that Joel Veltman from Ajax. I don't know if he's definitely going to start, but he is a quality centre back. So I'd be surprised if he doesn't get in the team. I can see them probably playing a 5 of the backs, sort of with wing backs of Lamptey and I guess Dan Burn, who doesn't really seem like a wing back, but Dunk, Webster and Veltman at the centre backs, and Lamptey could be good value, but. So when you're looking for cheap goalkeepers, you want sort of teams that concede few and then teams that score few, so that when you get a clean sheet or a 1-0 or something, Ryan, who has a lot of passes as well, is going to get in the bonus. I think at the moment he seems like the most obvious pick to go with the Button and save that money.
No, definitely. No, I quite like. Well, it's funny, really, but I'd say I quite like Matt Ryan, but there isn't really many options around the 4.5 bracket this year. Like you say, it's Ryan, it's McCarthy, and the keepers from the promoted sides. We might get Tom Heaton back in at Villa if he recovers, but he's not really returned to training. One person I sort of picked up on early doors, who we're not quite sure if he's going to keep his place yet, is Martinez at Arsenal. So Leno returned to training on the 17th of July, so I think that was about a month ago, doing light work. So whilst he might not start the season, it could be a bit of an unnecessary transfer you might have to make down the line if you pick Martinez. But just generally speaking about Arsenal goalkeepers, if we do get an indication, I think they're quite nicely priced for the season. Obviously, Martinez 4.5, Leno's only 5, and I don't typically like to spend 5.5 million plus on a goalkeeper, but I'd probably pay 5 million for Leno in an Arsenal team. It's certainly improved. So, since Arteta joined Arsenal, which is game week 19, Arsenal had the 4th highest amount of clean sheets in the league, and additionally kept, I know it's different competition, but they kept clean sheets in both the FA Cup semi and final. I kind of feel like there's good value in their defence. Leno has always been a bit of a monster when it comes to saves per 90 minutes, as Martinez did as well. So for their last season, their saves per 90 minutes, Leno had 3.5 and Martinez had 3.9. So both sort of showing on average they would pick up that extra point for saves across the 90 minutes. And I think if Arteta's going to make their defence tighter, as a result, I think Leno could, if he plays all season, same with Martinez all season, could outscore someone like Nick Pope, who obviously got that price right to 5.5. But yeah, I think clean sheets and save points are there for Leno and Martinez this season.
I think Leno's returns to training, right? Is that right?
Yeah, last month I think it was, but not full yet.
Oh, so he's not necessarily going to start the season.
I think from what I could, there isn't much detail on it because they didn't seem to be giving up much in the press since he went back to training. But yeah, he's been training since the 17th, and I just sort of imagine he'll progress slowly because it was knee ligament injury, so I doubt they want to rush him back. I just think that it proved their defence is quite a decent unit, because when Leno went out, Martinez came in, they kept 3 clean sheets and 8 starts, and he was the 6th highest scoring keeper in that time. So I think he and Leno seem like really good value, and if we get an indication about who's going to start the season, then I think the Arsenal defence could well be worth investing in.
Well, they play the Community Shield, don't they? Yeah. So against Liverpool? Yeah, Liverpool, isn't it? Yeah. Obviously before the season starts, so if Leno starts then, you then obviously he is going to be first choice, and we know he's fit. Yeah. So yeah, I think that's not a bad shout. Quite like it, and they brought in that Saliba guy who was obviously back on loan at Saint Etienne last year. He's only 4.5 million, which is good, but obviously he's young. I'm not sure how really good he's going to be, but he should start, and he's going to be obviously a decent value. And then, like you said, they have been tighter at the back, so yeah, I think a Leno set and forget seems good if he start. Yeah, like it.
What do you think about Nick Pope then? Because obviously he had a big price rise over the course of last season. He started at 4.5, ended about 5.3 maybe. I had him all season. I don't really go in for the rotating goalkeepers thing. I haven't done it for seasons now. It didn't affect me last season. I think I had one maybe 4 or 5 years ago. I had De Gea all season. I think last season I had a lot of different like 4.5 million goalkeepers with a nothing backup, which didn't work. But yeah, I've never had in recent seasons not had a reliable one. Do you think it makes sense to stick with one playing and just have bench fodder on the goalkeeper side of things?
Yeah, I think so. Obviously, it can go well if you get 2 4.5s, but it's hard to judge, and you'll often leave the wrong one on the bench, and it's just, I don't think it's worth that headache to just have that extra decision every week. Like, I just can't be bothered with it myself. But yeah, like you said, Nick Pope, with possibly Button, is only going to be about 9.5 million. That's an extra million compared to Ryan and Button, or 0.5 more than say Leno and Button or something like that. So yeah, he had obviously a great season last year. Just denied that Golden Glove. Unbelievably not getting a clean sheet in the last game. Who was it even first?
Brighton.
It was like Brighton,
they lost as well 2-1.
Yeah, which is So he was obviously going to get that price hike. 5.5 million for Nick Pope seems a bit much, right? Yeah. But you put him in, you're probably never going to have to worry about him and just keep him for the season. If you can justify that and sort of find some value elsewhere, then it's probably okay, but I'm not saying do it, to be honest. But yeah, top scoring goalkeeper last year, 170 points, 10 higher than Henderson at 160. So that's quite a lot of points higher than the second best. And 10 points could win you mini leagues at the end of the day. 15 clean sheets. We saw 10 pointers from Nick Pope pretty much every week, and you were loving them, but I certainly wasn't. I didn't own him all season. I barely owned a Burnley defender all season, and I should have done. Let's be honest. So yeah, he scored 20. He got 23 bonus across the season, whereas I think Ryan only got 14. So there's a big difference there. And he's a big 7 points above the closest second goalkeepers, which is Henderson and Guaita in bonus. And then he had the fourth highest saves of 120 behind Dubravka, which is the highest, Krul and Ramsdale. So yeah, my gut feeling says probably a bit too expensive, but if you want to just put one keeper in for the season, and we know Burnley are going to be tight, then Pope is the way to go.
No, I kind of agree. He does feel very much the set and forget option when it comes to the goalkeepers. You know you're going to get a high amount of clean sheets. His season history in FPL has been so good. Whenever he's played, it's always been about 140 points plus. Last season was a bumper 170, so I think you'd be happy with a score in between, or anywhere in between 140 and 170. But it's just that it's just that extra million. Is it going to be better spent elsewhere, really?
Probably a differential as well, because people aren't going to pay that much.
Definitely, but, yeah. All right, so I just wanted to pick up on McCarthy as well. So the reason I'm sort of factoring in him as an option is purely because of Southampton's form in Project Restart. So he scored 36 points when the game resumed, which was 3 more than next best 4.5 million goalkeepers at that time, who were Martinez and Ryan. He played 28 games in a row after Gunn was dropped. I think Gunn got dropped after that 9-0 game, which wouldn't be much of a surprise. But yeah, in that time he averaged 2.8 saves per game, which is slightly less than Ryan's 3.1, but second for all the 4.5 million goalkeepers. He averaged 3.7 points per 90 minutes, which was more than Ryan's 3.5. I keep mentioning Ryan just because they're similar price going into this season. And Southampton's defensive stats were really good to end the season. Also, post-lockdown, only Man City, Man United, Tottenham and Wolves conceded less goals. And I kind of feel like with such a short break between the end of the season and the start of this new one, that form is going to continue. Their defence seems pretty well set at the moment. And I think McCarthy could be a nice option at 4.5 million this season.
I think it's highly dependent on fixtures for who I pick.
Yeah.
I think McCarthy's a great option, like you said. It's just the worry if he gets injured, then your backup is Button that won't play.
Exactly.
So yeah, but yeah, it's just him or Ryan at 4.5 if you go in there, isn't it? So you haven't really got much choice.
All right, on to the defensive side of things. Should we talk about Trent, because he's on for what 75% ownership or something like that when I checked. I mean, it's
really?
crazy.
I didn't know he's that.
Yeah,
high.
it was.
Wow.
I mean, that might have been at the weekend, so it might have dialed down a bit now with more teams joining. But it was insane. Now, he's down to 56 now. So, but at one point, I was just thinking, oh my gosh, it's going to be the year of Trent. But I still think he's the highest owned player at the moment.
I mean, it's 7.5 million. I think is maybe a bit of a mistake by FPL. I think that's too cheap because, I mean, what did he end the season on? It must have been around 7.5. And just like,
I think it might be
it's just going to be auto include. Yeah, he's just going to be auto include. Like, there's no way people won't own him at the side. Like, 56% already. Like, it's just going to be too. If you don't own him, it's just FPL suicide from the get go.
Yeah.
So yeah, past 2 seasons, he had 185 points in 18/19, with 1 goal and 13 assists, which I think was the record at the time for a defender. And then he got 16 clean sheets and 25 bonus. And then obviously this year, he again blew that out of the water with 210 FPL points and 4 goals, 15 assists. So he broke the assist record again, 14 clean sheets and 24 bonus this time. So that's 5 goals and 28 assists in FPL. That's not including all Europe and everything else like that. So in 2 seasons, and for a defender, that's pretty crazy. So I mean, Alonso at his time was FPL gold. He's got nowhere near Trent's sort of numbers. Baines and Coleman and all that stuff. Yeah. So yeah, Trent is fantasy gold, as we say, but it gets to the problem where he's so highly owned that you can't really benefit from his points unless you've captained him or you own another defender from Liverpool. So that's probably going to be something we all need to look at is own a Van Dijk, a Gomez or a Robertson to even be able to benefit from Trent's points or clean sheets at all. So that's something this year. So yeah, I think people joining, his percent is only going to go up as well. Liverpool's defence wasn't as solid, especially after the lockdown.
No. And when they won the league,
I imagine,
fell off, didn't they? A lot.
Big time, yeah. So I imagine they're probably going to get around that 14, 15 clean sheets again anyway. Trent is probably only going to push on. He does have a little bit more sort of rotation risk this season with Neco Williams sort of stepping up a little bit, but I think Neco will probably play the cups and stuff like that, and Trent should be fine for the Prem. So season-wide stats for Trent. He had an XA of 10.09, which is fourth of all players, including mids, forwards, and well ahead of any other defender. He had an XG of 2.98, which is sixth of all defenders. But that's not really his bread and butter from sort of open play. Didn't get penalties or anything. But 87 key passes, which was first for defenders. 199 big chance creators. That doesn't seem right. That seems like loads. And then shots 44. Maybe it was 19 big chance creators or something. But 199 big chance creators. That seems. I might have got that way wrong. Anyway, bit of a typo probably. But yeah, shots 44, which was first for all defenders as well. So it seems like it's going to be pretty much impossible not to win him. And he might be worth a captaincy look more often this season as well. I think I triple captained him last season and did well. I think I got about 38 points from him, which was nice. So yeah, I think Trent's. He was the only player I owned all season last year as well. So I think it's probably going to be the exact same this year as well. Trent in from the start and never leaving.
Yeah, I kind of think he's like you say, season keeper really, unless he gets injured. Klopp's obviously come out and said a few comments about how he and Andy Robertson can't be expected to play 50 games per season at their age because they'll just get worn out. That's why they both got sort of cover being brought through. But like I say, I kind of feel that cover's going to be introduced more in maybe even some of the early European rounds, the League Cup, FA Cup. So you'd expect that Trent and Robbo probably throughout the course of the season only miss a handful of games, if that. But you know how devastating they can be coming off the bench. So no, I think Trent's pretty nailed on for me as well. Charlie Taylor's probably the Burnley defender I want to highlight. So we talked a little bit about Nick Pope, but of the remaining sort of Burnley defensive assets, I see him as a good way into that Burnley backline. So he's 4.5 million. He's first choice when fit. He got injured at the back end of last season, missed a few games. He's part of the backline that kept joint second most clean sheets last season. He averaged 3.8 points per 90 minutes. That was the third best of all defenders under 5 million last season. Only better by Williams of Man United, who obviously didn't play many games, so he kept his average high. And surprisingly, Otamendi, who I couldn't believe had played 24 games last season, but he did, and Otamendi bettered him. But I mean, 3.8 points per 90 is fantastic for a player that's 4.5 million. So he's not great on bonus. He only secured 5 last season and 1 attacking return. He doesn't get forward as much as someone like, let's say, Peters or Bardley, who both got more attacking returns than him. But he's the best of the 4.5 million defenders purely because he's had more minutes, more reliable starts, and he was involved in more of their clean sheets. He was involved with 10. I think they ended on 15. Was that right? I think so. Yeah, 15. Yeah, I think the other ones he just missed through injury rather than being dropped. So yeah, Charlie Taylor. If you haven't got him in your team, he's well worth considering. I know. Yeah, he might. Well, he may well come in over someone like Webster, but if he's in, it's another player the same we've got.
Sure.
Who else have you got written down from on the defensive side of things?
Okay, so he's in my squad at the moment. Vinagre, or Vinagre. Who knows how to pronounce it? But yeah, let's go for Vinagre. Okay. I like that.
He's a bit vinegary. All right.
I mean, this is definitely not right, but
Vinagre.
So yeah, the Wolves defender at 4.5 million. Johnny has obviously done his ACL, so he's going to be out. Yeah, poor Johnny. He's going to be out for 6, 7, 8 months or something. So for a long time. So Vinagre, there doesn't really seem to be anyone else in that squad who they haven't bought anyone. They haven't the sort of other youngest players, someone from their youth academy. So yeah, he doesn't really have competition there. And yeah, I like him at 4.5 million for a nailed on and probably well, obviously we know they're a really solid defense. I think he seems a steal at 4.5 million, sorry. And I think the double up with someone like Doherty or Bolly, I think should be really good value, assuming that Wolves fixtures are good. And obviously when Bolly's fit, that's a big factor that they keep clean sheets for fun. So 13 clean sheets across the season for Wolves, 40 goals conceded, which is one of the best. And yeah, if he feels like a no-brainer just to enable the sort of powerful midfield and still get that sort of foot into one of the best defenses at 4.5 million. It's obviously someone people need to pick up. What do you think?
Yeah, I kind of wonder if he makes Doherty a bit, not redundant, but less appealing. I know you've got him in your team, but the fact that he's on the opposite side, he's 4.5 million, he's going to be doing roughly the same job as Doherty in terms of getting into the box and getting to the final third, because that's how Nuno likes Johnny and Doherty to play. I mean, we haven't seen that he's got anywhere near or anything near like the end product Doherty's had in terms of getting on the edge of the 6-yard box and tucking away tap-ins and whatnot. But yeah, I think he's a good way into that Wolves back line, and if he does just start from the get-go and continue to start and Bolly is playing, then there's going to be points there.
I think the problem, we haven't seen him get attacking returns because he hasn't had the run of games. Yeah. Like, he's not had the full 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 sort of run of games where he can get into a groove and start getting those attacking returns. I think it's undoubtable that he will start to get them because he is very talented and he's very skillful as well. So I see no reason why he won't start getting assists and possible goal threat. Like Doherty, he's gonna get chances. So yeah, I think it's good to own him at least. And I think Doherty at 6 million, who I think he started 6.5 last year, right? Yeah. And he's lost value, and he had a great season again. So I think owning both is great as well. So, but yeah, Vinagre at 4.5 seems so obvious. And there seems to be like a few so obvious sort of picks emerging at this point, which is a bit annoying. But he's actually only 9% owned at this point, and possibly, as air quote marks of casuals will sort of probably glaze over him and miss him. But I think he's definitely someone you should consider.
Yeah, definitely. Well, just because all the Wolves defenders had like price hikes, so even Size, who was sort of like the budget friendly option in the last season, he's gone up to 5. Everyone seems to have like a 0.5 increase just across the board there, apart from, like you say, Doherty, who looks like he's at 6 million, he's certainly a bit different than last season. Finally, on the defensive side of things, it's been a bit tricky to pick out 4 million starting players this season. We think we might have 2. So Ferguson's a 4 million player. He's plays for Crystal Palace. He's a right back. He's recently been signed. Roy actually came out and gave this quote. I think it was earlier today, maybe yesterday. He said, "We are congratulating ourselves on having signed a top-class young player who we think is the right way forward for us, and a player who, even from the offset, will be a real candidate for a place in the starting 11. So that's pretty high praise, and a lot of Palace fans on forums saying he will start the season. So I think he could be a really good bet. He's, you never know. He looks like he's going to be taking over that spot from, was it Joel Ward and Martin Kelly, who'd sort of been squabbling over it last season, but he could come in and just shunt them both out of the way. So he could be an interesting option. The other 4 million player to mention, or just to keep an eye on, is Johnson at West Ham. So he ended the season playing right back. And there's been some talk on West Ham forums and West Ham fan groups that he should be given a better run or continued run in the team because he ended the season so well. I think he actually only got in the team because someone was out injured.
Probably Fredericks.
Yeah, that's right. So it will be interesting to see if he keeps his place. But yeah, for 4 million, if he does, those 2 could be good budget options to squeeze in your teams.
I mean, there is a couple of others as well that might have a chance. In the Leeds team, there's Barry Douglas, who was promoted with Wolves the year before, and everyone thought he was going to be the next big thing in a sort of attacking because he was on set pieces and all this stuff. And then he got sold again back to Leeds. So he's got promoted again, but he is 4 million, but he's only started about 6 games this season, mostly because of injury, and Leeds were saying or Leeds fans have been saying that he is first choice, but that remains to be seen, I suppose, at the start of the season. If you want to risk it, then sure, but Ferguson seems like the more obvious one. And then there is Strukji or something like that from Leeds, who's a 4.0 centre-back who played the last 3 games of the season.
Interesting.
He didn't start any others, but he when he came in, everyone was very impressed by him, and they said that he's been so good that he could start next season. But unlikely, to be honest. I think Ferguson seems like the best bet at Aaron Wan-Bissaka 4.0 Lundstrom sort of area. Yeah. But, he's not going to be in Lundstrom because he's not out of position.
I'm really interested in the Leeds defenders because I think there's quite a lot of investment. I've heard a lot of good things about Dallas and is it Ayling as well? in terms of how many attacking returns they get. So, yeah, based on who Bielsa goes, well, also the fact that their defensive record's so good. I think it was 48% of games last season they kept a clean sheet in. So, yeah, depending on who Bielsa picks in that back line, there could be some really good options in there.
If their fixtures are good to start with, then it might be hard to dismiss a Dallas Riley for definitely.
Sure. All right. So let's crack right on to midfielders, the sort of juicy area, because we had a lot of price reveals. We've had a new entry into midfielder slot in terms of Aubameyang, but who should we start talking about first?
Okay, so someone who ended the season well, who did well for me, obviously, was Raheem Sterling. 11.5 million. I think he started 11.5 million as well last year.
Did, yeah.
He's currently only owned by 9% of managers. Okay, so while KDB on the other hand is owned by 62.5% at the moment. So once again, Sterling's going to be the highest value differential in the game, and I've got him in my team at the moment just for that reason. Obviously, KDB is. I probably should go for KDB. Probably will, but I think if you got the balls for Sterling instead, Sterling starts the season well. He's got a hat-trick last year. He looks great, and after lockdown, looked good, and he looked like the bright spot in that Lyon game in the Champions League. Sterling, I think, assuming the City are going to sort of push on and do well again. Obviously, they were disappointed in the Champions League, but Sterling, I like him a lot. And it's probably going to be mad to go with that KDB, but at this point he's in there. But that's at the safety of knowing that I can just, the season hasn't started. I can just, but he is so good and very consistent as well. So across the last 3 seasons, he's had 18, 17 and 20 goals. So 20 was his highest last season. So he's on the upward sort of trajectory. 17, 15 and 6 assists last season. So he lost a bit of assist essential last season. I'm not really sure why that was.
Kevin was taking them all.
And then possibly. And then 19, 25 and 20 bonus points as well. So he's actually kind of average on the bonus points across the last 3 seasons. So his XG season-wide was 18.52, which is third of all mids. An XA of 9.01, which is fifth of all mids. He had 99 shots last year, 38 on target, 83 in the box. So 83 in the box is good, sort of his poacher, the back post role. 33 big chances. He had 48 key passes, 9 big chances created, which is compared to KDB, who actually had 34 big chances. That's way off the pace. But he scored 204 points last season, about 50 more points or less than KDB did. But he had that sort of mid-season lull where he kind of didn't do anything at all. So if he can not do that, then he would be pretty much close to KDB's points, I'd say. It's a risk going for him, obviously, but there's the high side, and he's obviously captain material. Big differential compared to some. If Liverpool have a good sort of game week 1, then a differential to Salah, differential to KDB possibly. Obviously, you don't really need differential, particularly in the first week. But
it was that.
I'm.
Oh, you're in on him.
I am at the moment. Yeah, I would like both of them, but the prices, considering Fernandes has gone up so high as well, and all the other prices are quite difficult. So I would like both, but it's just.
It's budget, isn't it? Yeah, I was just going to say it's just that 3 months between the start of the year and when we came back from off a Project Restart. Like Sterling just had such a barren time. I don't think he got an attacking return. Yeah. Maybe it wasn't. Maybe he didn't score in that time. But that really affected his overall points, and his strong end of that season really boosted him up the ranks. So if he can have a more consistent year, like you say, I think he'd be a really good pick. I suppose the newest and biggest entry to the midfield slots has got to be Aubameyang. So perhaps we'll start there with him, just because I don't know. I kind of didn't see it coming, and maybe wrongly. We know we've been playing out wide, but I thought would take a big decision from FPL to switch him there. They've obviously done it, and they've boosted his price up just based on how many points he's got. So, for anyone who's fairly new, he's obviously getting that extra point for a goal, extra point for a clean sheet going forward. If we take that into consideration for the season just gone, he'd have finished the second highest scoring player in the game behind KDB. So he scored 22 goals per season in each full season he's played in the Premier League, winning the Golden Boot in 18-19 and narrowly missing out in 19-20. Funnily enough, in these last 2 seasons, I've only owned him for maybe 1 game week, I think it was, when I transferred him in for Vardy for the double just before the coronavirus break. And he got me a blank at home to someone like West Ham, maybe. So it's funny, really. He scored all these points, and I've just never had the need to own him.
You've missed 44 goals worth of FPL points. From
it's crazy. It's crazy. So it'd be interesting to see how he mixes in from a general sort of team point of view. So he's played on the wing, and that's all been well and good. Lacazette's played through the middle. Nketiah played through the middle. But we wonder now, with Willian signing, whether he's going to sort of operate more on the left wing, interchange with Saka. If Pepe's out on the right, does that mean Laka's going to get given a chance again playing through the middle? And if it does, obviously he's going to be out of position playing centre forward in an Arsenal team where he's the captain and pretty much going to start 95% of the games. I think he seems a really good pick. So diving into numbers a little bit more. So since joining the Premier League, Aubameyang has overperformed his expected FPL points by 7%, right? So should he continue this and overperform by 7%, he should receive around 230 points in the 2021 season. So I kind of think 231 points for 12 million makes him very worthwhile to include. So I don't have him in my draft at the moment, but depending on their opening fixtures, I could be really interested in him. It's just another captaincy option from midfield. I'm spoken about a little bit earlier about how Arteta's improved that Arsenal defence. So you'd expect that extra bonus point or extra point coming in there every so often. So I think he'd make a great captaincy option and just a great general option.
Yeah, I had him in my very first draft. That's when we thought Man United and Man City were going to miss week 1. They still might do. We haven't had that confirmed. But I could easily get to him by removing a Fernandes and a Doherty, keep Sterling, keep Salah, get in Aubameyang as well. I think that could be good. And you can always move Aubameyang back to a Fernandes if the fixtures align. So I quite like that as a possible move. But I think the rumours are that Man United and Arsenal might play each other in the first week.
Oh, really?
So, so that's just a rumour. I'm not saying that's true, but that might.
You heard it here first. That'd be kind of cool.
Yes. So, I like him. I think at midfield he is very much in my thoughts. I've never really done well owning him. I owned him like when he first came to the Prem, I think a couple of years ago, and I had him for like 10 or something weeks when he barely scored at all, and I just kept keeping him, thinking I've got faith in him, and it just never really worked out. But I think this, assuming he stays, and with Willian coming in and Lacazette is possibly moving on to Juve, that might be why he might get sold. So if Aubameyang is out of position striker again, I like that. He's gonna score goals for me. Like, he is so clinical. So, and on penalties, possibly some free kicks maybe as well. He's gonna be hard to ignore this year.
I mean, if Lacazette goes, that's just to also include. I mean, I'm already very much close to having him, but if he goes and he plays through the middle on penalties, it's just it'd be silly. All right, another midfield player. Do we want to talk about? Okay,
so my turn. Greenwood. Obviously got a big price rise, 7.5 million. Now a midfielder as well. He got 10 goals, 1 assist, 17 bonus points, but he only played 1,303 minutes last year. So obviously, assuming Sancho doesn't come to United and he's first choice right forward, then he's gonna, I assume, provide good value. He's not on free kicks, he's not on penalties, he's not on any corners or anything. So that dims his sort of potential a little bit, but he is clinical. But anyway, post lockdown, his XG was 1.45, an XA of 1.43, 17 shots. He had 0 big chances, which is obviously a little bit of a worry. But he has been so clinical that those big chances, or sort of defined big chances, haven't really mattered. 6 key passes and then 2 big chances created, and he got 5 goals, 1 assist, and 50 points since the lockdown, which is obviously good. Huge value last season at his price, obviously at the 4.5 area. But I know if he goes up to 7.5, is that value? I'm not as sure. So he's had one goal in his last 6 games, including Europa League, which is actually the same as Rashford. So both of them have gone off the boil a little bit. And the consistency isn't actually really there with those two. It kind of is with Bruno. Well, it is with Bruno and Martial, who've both, like, Martial's sort of goal return lately has sort of dried up a little bit, but he's at least been involved with assists and things like that. But whereas on the other side, Greenwood and Rashford have just not been doing it lately. So personally, I think that Martial and Bruno are probably the better picks from United at the moment. Rashford could be good going back to a midfield, but Rashford has looked really poor lately. So yeah, I think there could be better value at possibly a 6.5 at Foden or a Maddison at 7 million. I think it's hard to say. Like, I don't know how good he's going to be next season, basically.
I think also you might find a talisman, if you like, of a smaller side who's involved in absolutely everything they do. I mean, Grealish, maybe not such a great example, but let's just say Grealish from the point of December through to about February, where he was doing everything for that one team and being relied upon, always playing 90 minutes on penalties. You might find someone at that price. That's what's put me off Greenwood a little bit. His price is sort of middle of the road for a player who's not going to be United's number 1 FPL point scorer, if that makes sense. So yeah, when he was 4.5 million, he was an easy decision to make to include. Now the fact he's very mid-range, it's put me off him a little bit this season. But obviously great talent, and be interesting to see how he fits into the side if they do sign Sancho.
Yeah, if the run of fixtures is good, like really good, sort of like post-lockdown good, then I think he's hard to ignore, because if you probably go for a Bruno plus a Greenwood. But then again, Martial is super hard to ignore as well. So, I just don't think he's going to provide good enough value this year. Unfortunately,
no, it's a shame. All right, well, talking about Bruno then, I mean, I've been saying this to you since it's launched, but I just think he's so underpriced, right? So he's coming at 10.5, so that's obviously 1.5 million cheaper than Salah, 1 million cheaper than KDB. He's on the corners, free kicks, he's on the direct free kicks, he's on penalties, he's basically got everything. So he joined game week 25 last season. In that time, he was the 3rd highest for shots in the game with 44. So after both Salah and, funnily enough, Antonio, only 15 of those shots were in the box, so not too many. So fair amount from outside, but he showed he can score from outside. I think he scored goals against Brighton and Everton from outside the box, so it wouldn't be totally unlikely. He massively overperformed his expected points, more so than anyone else in the league. So he actually scored 115 points in the time he was in the league, and his expected points was 86, but that was still the 3rd highest expected points. So the numbers are really, really good for him. The question, I suppose, from me to you is, can he continue it? Can United keep getting penalties to boost his numbers up? But I don't really see why not. The style of play is not changed.
Yes, they can. I don't see why it can't change. Yeah. Rashford and Martial are always going to win penalties. Greenwood's always going to win penalties. Yeah. So yes, I see no reason why I can't continue.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, United have got to get the ball. I mean, just even watching him, he just looks like fantasy gold, doesn't he? I mean, he links the play. He wants to shoot. He's pretty selfish. He can pick out a key pass. I think even in the United's 2 games in the Europa League, we've seen him pick up 2 more goals, and again from penalties. But I mean, he was United's best player.
He should have got 2 assists for Martial as well in that game.
So I think it's made it really difficult this season. I mean, they've done well because whilst none of the prices are too expensive in midfield, and you don't really gawk at and go, oh my gosh, 13 million for a player. The fact that there are so many good midfielders, Salah, De Bruyne, Fernandes, and Aubameyang, and Sterling as well, all feasibly you'd want in your team at any given moment.
Yep.
I mean, you'd wreck your team if you had 3 of those. So I mean, he's go.
I was going to say he's an awkward price point as well. He's 10.5 million, and the closest to him either way is 1 million. So it's hard. Well, actually, I don't think there's anyone 9. Is there 9.5? I don't think there is actually a 9.5.
Is Rashford
midfielder?
Rashford maybe.
Oh yeah, Rashford is. Yes, okay. So, and then there's then to go up. There's Sterling at 11.5 and De Bruyne. So yeah, you probably have to own him at the start, maybe, like, because he is going to be hard to get to otherwise.
Well, I don't want to be in a situation with game week 1 where I'm sort of, rather than trying to cram all these players in, I've got a team which is one very expensive premium in. Let's just say I've got Salah and I've got Kevin as the two expensive premiums, and then I've got like a Pulisic or a Ziyech in the third mid slot. If Bruno scores or does something in the first game week, you know what United fans are like with, and especially just general football fans after game week 1. We saw that last season with Martial, Wan-Bissaka, Rashford when they battered Chelsea 4-0. If anything happens like that, his price is going to be 10.7 by game week 2. So, yeah, I kind of feel like you've got to have him from the outset, really. Plus, he's just a good FPL pick anyway.
Yeah, let's just see if they start and what the fixtures are like. If it is Arsenal the first game, then it's going to be awkward. That is going to be a tough game. So he might not. You could wait on him possibly, but then again, the one you would want instead would probably be Aubameyang. So they're facing each other, so that would be awkward as well. So
we'll see. Have to see how the fixtures fall.
We'll see. Yeah. Fixtures, yeah.
Ziyech is another interesting one on the final sort of midfield pick I got today. So I think he's been priced really kindly. So if you consider Pepe came in last season at 9.5 and Ziyech's in at 8, I think he's got a bit more pedigree on the European stage as well. So he kind of made his name for himself. He's made himself in the Eredivisie. So he scored 16 goals and 13 assists in 29 games in the 18-19 season. He obviously shone really brightly in the Champions League. I think he had 6 attacking returns in 11 Champions League outings, helping Ajax get to the semi-final against Spurs year before last. I think he looks like a good option. So he's got 82 assists in 165 matches in all competitions at Ajax. So he's averaging over 3.5 key passes per game. And when you think, well, what really is the competitive like, or the level of the Eredivisie like, I think his performances in the Champions League have shown he can probably adapt quite well to the Premier League. So I kind of feel that he's been given a really fair and interesting price point. I don't know, is Ziyech someone that you've thought about including, or is he one of those you want to see a bit? I mean, you know more about him than I do because you've watched him a lot more in Champions League and might have been your Champions League FPL team. Or Champions League.
I would love to own him. And yeah, he has done really well for me in Champions League in the last few seasons. So, I think he's a quality player. I'm sad that Chelsea have got him, but I think he is going to help them a lot, especially with Werner and Pulisic. That front three is going to be electric, I think. And I think there's value in that Chelsea sort of attack, in that whole Chelsea team again. Kind of surprised they're priced so generously, as you said. So at the moment, he's hard to fit in my team just because of the sort of price points in Salah and Fernandes and Sterling and sort of thing, the premiums. But yeah, if it's a good fixture at the start, I think he's going to be hard to ignore as well. I mean, his ownership is probably fairly low at the moment, I would guess. So he might not hurt that much, but I think at some point I'm 100% going to own him this season. I like him a lot. And obviously Pulisic, shame he's injured because he would have been in a lot of people's teams as well if he wasn't, because he's looking electric after the lockdown as well. So yeah, value in Chelsea. I like Ziyech, and I'm sure he's going to provide a lot of points this year.
Well, you may be surprised. Sorry, what were you going to say?
I think we needed that sort of he's not a premium obviously, but that sort of another sort of electric priced midfielder or something who's going to score well, and that sort of option from Chelsea that Hazard sort of vacated when he left. But yeah,
they might have got it. I surprisingly, I checked his ownership a bit earlier today, 20% ownership. So he's double that of Pulisic, and he's only 5% less than Aubameyang. So yeah, he's always been picked up quite well, really. All right, should we move on to the forwards and then Ripley wrap it up?
Yep.
Who do you want to talk about?
All right, let's start with Mr. Ingsy, as Hasenhüttl would say. Ingsy, 8.5 million. He was 6.5 last year. He started at big 2 million increase, and 1 goal off the Golden Boot will do that for you. 22 goals last year, 2 assists, which is fairly low, I'd say, but 198 points. Jimenez justified his price hike last year as well, so I personally expect Ings to do the same. Honestly, I think he will be as consistent as last year. I see no reason why he can't do the same thing. He looks fit, sharp, injury free at the moment. They look like they're on the sort of upturn, Saints in general. Adams was starting to hit some form, so that will probably help Ings getting free in the box and that sort of thing. So when Ings or Adams started scoring at the end of the season, it didn't really affect Ings' point scoring. And he played with Long all year long as well, didn't he? And that didn't really affect him either. So I think he's going to be a good pick. And that is a problem I have in my team at the moment, or my first draft. So I really want an Ings or an Jimenez in there because they are going to provide good value again. Ings season-wide next year, 14.8. An XA of 5.37. 93 shots. 22 big chances, 35 key passes, and 2 big chances created. 2 big chances created is very low, actually. I might be stealing some of your points on Jimenez here, but
it's all right.
Compared to Jimenez, who's obviously at the same price this year, Jimenez had 118 shots compared to Ings' 93, whereas he had 48 key passes and Ings had 35, but then he had 13 big chances created, Jimmy, compared to Ings' 2. So Jimmy actually beat him all across the board and all the sort of metrics that you want for a striker for the stats, and but obviously he didn't get as much goals. So I think Ings and Jimenez are going to be good value again, but I don't see them in many people's drafts just because of how priced they are. I think they could be decent differentials at the same time. Armstrong obviously with Ings last year was a good combination. I think they'll sort of flourish again. I think they'll probably pay a back 3 maybe with a sort of KWP, Walker Peters, and Bertrand on the wings, which will be good. And that new centre back Salazar looks pretty good. I think Saints are going to be good. Top half at least, I'd guess. Maybe pushing for Europa League, maybe. If they can sort the defence out, obviously.
That's just what's holding them back. I mean, they scored they've looked sharp in some important games. Obviously, they beat City, drew with United towards the end of the season. They came back looking really sharp. So if they can go again, I think they've got a great chance of finishing towards top half of the table and inside the top 10 and maybe push on to Europe. You just don't know, but. Yeah, I think if Ings anywhere near continues his form from last season, I think again he looks really fairly priced along with Jimenez.
I think he's gonna be a differential. I've seen him in barely any drafts at all, honestly, so far. So Armstrong at 5.5 is such good value at this point that the reason I've not got Ings is because I think hopefully Armstrong can kind of cover a little bit of those points, but.
Yeah, hard to see. So talking of Jimenez, I mean, you know what you're getting from him. So 181 points in, I suppose it was 18-19, and then in 19-20 he got 194. So you know what he's going to sort of deliver. 8.5 million, so he's exactly the same price. There could be a case for switching between the two based on fixtures. He actually slightly underperformed his expected points last season, which is always a good sign. So he was predicted 197, fell 3 points short. He's on penalties, central striker. He always plays when fit. You know he's not going to get rotated. The only thing which is threatening his inclusion this season is that if he gets picked up by Juve, because I think he's on their big list of transfer targets as well.
Is he? I didn't know that. Okay.
So he's good on bonus as well. He picked up an additional 33 pure bonus points last season, which is the 5th highest in the game. The only thing I would say about Ings and Jimenez is I suppose they're not renowned for these big double-digit haul games. We didn't have many of them last season where they were like really good 12, 13, 14 captaincy point games. So he shoots a heck of a lot. 118 total shots was the second most of any player after Salah. And he also had the second highest amount of big chances with 93. So the numbers are there. I think in a team that perhaps creates even more, Jimenez could be even more of a monster. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see if anything happens with Juve. If not, Jimenez and Ings just look like great 8.5 million options in their respective teams. Do you think they'd be... I don't know, who would you rather have? I know you've got neither, but let's say if I gave you the 8.5 million, would you spend it on a Pulisic or Ziyech in midfield or a Jimenez or Ings up front? That seems like the main difficulty we've all got at the moment. All these 3 premium players in our teams in midfield, we've only allowing ourselves 1 striker, and it seems to be Werner because people have got the cash for it.
I'm not sure. I don't know how to answer that at this point. The romantic in me says Ings to just do it again with the goals. But then Jimenez is just so consistent. Like he barely, I think he only ever really blanked like 3 times was the most he blanked in a row last season, and he's just so consistent in getting something. And his assist potential and big chances created compared to Ings is so much higher. And then, you know, people like Antonio sort of downwards towards that sort of 6 million mark is like, can he do that season wide? We don't know, like what he did after lockdown. Whereas Jimenez and Ings, we know can Pulisic do it season wide without getting injured?
We don't know.
Who knows? Exactly. So
yeah, that's got to be. I don't know. I kind of feel like we need a few more preseason games to find out if there's any more sort of enabler options to give us a bit more scope for crafting our teams. I mean, I might even be interested. It sounds mad because there's like 3 premium slots. Is playing 3 in midfield with 2 4.5 million midfielders. That might be a way to tackle it, and then get a secondary good striker. But yeah,
there is so many good options.
Yeah,
in midfield,
I know.
Though. That's the problem.
It's really difficult.
Yeah, that Salah, Fernandes, and Sterling, KDB in midfield, and then you put more into Antonio plus Jimenez and Ings possibly as well, and the 4-3-3 maybe. No, I don't think that's bad.
No, I don't think so bad.
I played 4-3-3 quite a lot last season actually.
Yeah. So I think there's some scope in that, but like I say, it's very much going to be fixtures dependent. And in that statement, we've not even mentioned Aubameyang again. So yeah, I'm sure we'll find out more. All right, last forward from you, and then I've got one more as well.
Okay, so obviously we have mentioned a little bit, but yeah, Werner coming into the league, or Werner, 9.5 million, priced pretty handsomely, I'd say. 34 goals and 13 assists across 19-20. Rarely gets injured, can play through the left or through the middle, but I assume he will be through the middle. I think Giroud and Tammy are actually both staying at the club at this point, so that'll be sort of interesting. But anyway, he's gonna be nailed, in my opinion, because he's obviously been there for months now at Chelsea and training for a long time with Ziyech now. So they're going to be ready to start the season. With Pulisic on the left as well, I think that Chelsea front 3 are going to be monstrous, and there's value to be had. If the fixture is right for Chelsea in the week 1 and the others are bad for all the other premiums, I'm thinking about even captaining him. Weirdly. Ooh. Yeah, I know, that's kind of crazy. But so Chelsea averaged 3 shots in the box per 90 last season, and that's only City strikers would get more or got more, and that's with Tammy and Giroud and sort of stuff in their team, which is very good. So Chelsea had 107 big chances last season and created 75 big chances, which is third amongst all teams, only behind City and Liverpool. So all the signs say Werner is going to do well. He's going to get the chances created for him. Pulisic and Ziyech are gonna do some work for him. Even Mount line just in the 3 in midfield behind him are going to do well. So Werner had a season XG of 23.4 as well, which is higher than any other player in the Premier League last season. So obviously that's the German league, but it's not that bad of a league. So Aubameyang in comparison had 16.6, where Werner is at 23.4, is a long way above. And Vardy, obviously the Golden Boot winner, got 20.03, and Salah had 20.07. Sorry, 21.07. So Werner's above all of them, and obviously Salah's been so good for so long. I can see him getting towards the 18 to 20 goals this year, maybe. Definitely. That seems likely to me in a really progressive attacking Chelsea side, because obviously they can't defend at all. But it looks like they're also getting Chilwell and possibly Havertz from Leverkusen. So this Chelsea team is going to be stacked. So I think they could challenge for the title in a year or two. I think people will talk about Higuain and Morata coming into Chelsea and flopping completely. But I think
they were on there.
He didn't have. Or they were on their sort of like back burner of their careers. Well, maybe not Morata, but and they didn't have as many good pieces around them as Chelsea are building now. So he's already at 35%.
That's worrying,
owned,
isn't it? Already,
so you're going to get higher. So I think you're going to need to own him, and he's got the potential to do really well. So I'm happy to own him.
Yeah, same.
It's just exciting.
It's rare that you get like a big name striker join the league from overseas and be like really, I want to put my team, because even when Higuain came, I was like, he's a bit old. And Morata, I didn't really think he was a sort of 20 to 25 goal a season player. Aubameyang was probably the last player we had done it, and he's been really successful since. So I'm really looking forward to watching Werner. I suppose the only person who's going to be sort of competing with him close to his price tag is Martial, because he's 9 million. He's coming in at a forward now after the reset. So he again looks like he's benefited from Bruno being around. He came into his own after he joined, so he scored 104 points, which is the second most of all players after Bruno joined in game week 26. So mammoth stats. Obviously takes into account he was getting that extra point for clean sheet and a goal, but even though he wasn't against Sevilla in the week, he's usually clinical, especially in the league. So from from game week 26 onwards, he scored 9 goals from just 25 shots in the box. To put that into perspective a little bit, Salah scored 5 goals from 41 shots in the same time period. So he is lethal on his day. So he's previously been quite poor at picking up bonus. That was mainly due to him listed as a midfielder. However, his new correct centre forward position, it should be more accurate, and he's certainly going to score more than the 7 bonus points. I kind of think Martial is a really, well, it looks like a really good prize playing centre forward in a Man United team which are going to be looking to score more goals this season. He's just come off the back of his best scoring league campaign, and I don't doubt that he's going to better it this time out, as long as he can stay injury free, because he was injured for quite a few months at the start of the season. I think he's got a really good chance to hit, I don't know, 20, maybe 25 goals this season.
I would love to own him. He was in one of my initial drafts when I was putting players just into my team to start with. He was one of the first people I put in, and I think he's going to have a good season. It just depends on what sort of United are going to show up this year. I think the sort of boost from Fernandes coming has sort of waned a little bit. So it just, obviously Champions League's going to help, but there's going to be more games where he's going to have to play in Champions League and all that sort of stuff. Whereas he got rested a lot in Europa last year. So, I want to own him, but let's just see at this point.
Yeah, I think United, same with City and maybe to an extent Wolves as well. They've only recently finished playing in Europe. The season obviously starts and they're meant to be given 30 days rest, but the fact they're just getting 30, some teams are going to have had maybe like 45, maybe even 60 odd. Yep. So it'd be interesting to see how many United players get given reasonable time off, and then even are they going to get rotated when the season starts? Because surely they're just going to get burnt out. They've looked, but
I wouldn't think so. I think they should be fine to start.
Yeah,
surely.
But like maybe in every so often taking off like half an hour early, 20 minutes early, surely they're going to get burnt out. They've looked burnt out recently. And even a small break, I don't know how much it'll help.
They look tired between the sort of Europa start and between the end of the season as well. They still look tired. So, that is a concern.
Definitely. All right, have you got any more to add, or should we wrap it up?
There's loads of other people to mention, but we're tackling the key players at this moment, and we're obviously going to have a full fixture rundown next week, so I think that's fine for now. I think so too.
Well, all right, well, like Kieran says, we'll be back to do sort of a focus on the fixtures when they get released. Looks like they're going to be Friday. We'll probably do a show sometime over the weekend once we've had a chance to pick through it. Then we'll probably do a few more as the pre-season games roll about, and lead up to the big one. Kickoff, 12th of September. Gosh, it's going to come around quick again. 20... Is it 24 days? Maybe just under... Is it 3 weeks now? Something like that?
Yeah, it's about that, yeah.
All right. Thanks, everyone, for joining us. Any questions, put us in the chat. Follow us at FPL Cougars on Twitter as well. And we'll see you next time.
Yep, cheers, everyone.
Bye all. Bye-bye.